Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now's We Should Talk About It. I'm Myra Ansari. My podcast is about mental health, so I'm really happy to have Lisa Chardine, the Executive Director of First Hour of Grief Response, here with us today. And today's topic is grief and how to deal with grief. And that may be a new feeling for some people. It may be a familiar feeling for some people. Tell us about your organization, what you all do in the community, and why this organization came about.
All right. Well, First Hour came about because a group of ladies suffered sudden loss. And so we had 4 women that had come together. We met at Karen Buchanan's house, who is now the board chair of First Hour. And she had lost her husband to suicide. And then there were 2 other women plus myself. And we decided we wanted to do something for sudden loss because that's the loss that we experienced. There wasn't anything out there for us. When we sat there and said, what now? After our losses, I lost a child. His name was Ben, and he died at the hands of a drunk driver in June of 2011, thank you, just shy of his 20th birthday. So I knew that I needed help, and I went to grief support. I sought out other women that had lost children, and those people really helped me understand what the road was going to be like ahead. And so after a period of mourning and healing and doing the hard work of grief and getting that support, we decided that we wanted to form First Hour and help other people thrown into sudden loss. So that's our mission, basically, is to help people navigate sudden loss.
Sudden loss can be, somebody dies in a car accident, victim of violence, taking their own life. And then the people who were involved in their lives, they're left hurting.
Yes.
And that hurt is hard to manage.
It is. And sometimes we model grief that has been shown to us and demonstrated by maybe our parents or our grandparents. And so sometimes we don't know that we need to go talk to somebody and get help, right? We need to someone to normalize grief for us, because we don't talk about grief until it happens to us. And so grief is difficult. It's not 5 stages that you go through and you check off and you get to the end and you're over it, right? It's something that you move through at your pace because it's very personal. It's personal to the relationship that you had with that person. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross back in the 1960s coined this idea that there were 5 stages of grief, and that had to do with getting a terminal illness diagnosis. And so unfortunately, society thinks that that's what happens in grief, but grief is a daily roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes you can feel a lot of different emotions like anger and isolation and sadness. And then other times you get stuck in one emotion. Like a lot of times in suicide, for example, you will be angry at the person. Why'd they do this to me? Or maybe you're angry at yourself because you didn't see the signs, right? There's just so many different emotions. And then each person in the family will grieve differently. So even couples that we help, maybe that have lost a child, they will grieve very differently than each other. And so, we try to encourage them to give each other grace and to stay on the same side. Men will often, I had a therapist tell me one time, men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. And so men put things in their pockets, their waffle pockets, and they're able to, keep things separated, where women, we keep all of our emotions all together like spaghetti on a plate, right? And so we have to give each other grace during this time, because it's very difficult to navigate certainly a loss of a child, a parent, and then of course a sibling also. I've lost actually a parent and a sibling in addition to my son, Ben. And each loss was very different, but I will say that I think the most difficult loss for me was the child loss.
Of course. If you have if you're going through grief right now, if you've had a sudden loss and you want to talk about it with us on this stream, please feel free to share your stories. Or if you have a question for Lisa today, please feel free to ask it. We'll try to monitor it as they come through, and I'll get them over to Lisa so maybe she can help you. I think it's refreshing to know that there are groups out there that say, you know what, I know what you're dealing with, and you can talk about it with me, and the way that you're feeling is okay.
Yes, that we do a peer-to-peer model, and so we actually train grief mentors. Some of them were former clients of First Hour, and they now want to give back and help people in the community on their loss. Some people, we actually hire retired teachers to work with children, and we have a couple of youth programs that we do. One's in actually the school system
Wow.
called Hope Wave, and so we want to create an instant connection with someone. So when I meet someone who has lost a child, and I actually still see clients too, because I like to help people as well. There's an instant connection. Like, I get you, you know about the pain I'm in, right? And so then I'm much easier. I'm able to walk with them and tell them about the journey ahead, and they trust me, right? They trust me with their feelings and all the difficult things they're dealing with. And talk therapy is one of the best things that you can do for yourself.
Sure.
Anytime I'm dealing with anything, I will go see a therapist, even if it's just for a couple of visits, just to work through something. I think
Absolutely.
it's very healthy. We don't have to be ashamed to seek help and ask for help from somebody. And so this peer-to-peer method works beautifully. People will call in, they'll actually reach out through the website at firsthourgrief.org, and we'll connect you with someone who typically has a similar loss. It's not in every case, but most cases we can get someone involved that has a similar loss and create that connection.
So I want to take you to First Hour of Grief's website right now, because that's what I have on my screen. And what Lisa's talking about, they're mentors. If you click on About Us, Meet Our Mentors, these are their mentors, the part of the people that are in their organization. And what I loved when I was doing my research on this organization was everybody has a bio on here, and every grief mentor shares their experience, why they are on this trajectory to help others. It starts with, their grief began with the loss of their mother or their son or their daughter, and a parent or a friend. That way, because Lisa, sometimes we feel like, if you're just talking to random people, hey, that's great, but sometimes you need someone to know what you're feeling.
Yes, and not everyone says the right things.
True, right?
You'll
get over it, or it'll sometimes, I may not get over it.
No, I don't think you ever get over it. I think you learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
We surrender to it. But there's a website where there are 64 things you should never say to a griever.
Oh gosh.
And these are all things that people have heard over the years. And I'll actually take this to one of my groups every once in a while, just so that we can have a little laugh about it, because they've all heard it, right? God gives you never more than you can handle. He's in a better place. You just need to be strong. At least you have other children. I mean, you hear all these things that are just
cringeworthy.
Yes.
Yes.
Nails on a chalkboard moments, right?
And people think that they're saying the right thing, and you know that their intention isn't bad, but when you're in that moment of pain, it's not what you want to hear.
No, actually, my advice to people, and I actually had this happen the other day. I got a phone call from somebody that was on her way to go see someone that was just found out that their child had died. And she was like, what do I do? What do I say? And I said, you don't have to have any words. The truth is there are no words. We, even as grievers, get tired of hearing I'm sorry, right? So I just think saying, I don't know what to say. I can't imagine what this feels like for you. I'm just going to sit here with you and let you talk to me, let you share with me what you're feeling. I'm not going to try to fix this because I can't fix it, but I'm going to sit here in the awkwardness with you, right? And I'm going to love you through this. I'm going to help you by doing things that I think maybe need to be done. Certainly in those first few weeks, there's a lot of things that have to be addressed after someone passes. Everything from funeral planning or life celebrations, or however you do that. Sometimes people need errands run. They need their appointments canceled or other appointments made. You can do somebody a big favor by just driving them from place to place, organizing all the food that comes in. When Ben died, there was a woman named Paula that took over my kitchen. I didn't know who she was. I was just grateful that she was there, because that's typically a gift that people give when they see people in pain. They want to bring food, and that's their love language at that moment. And so we had a lot of food to distribute, and a lot of people at our house, a lot of young people at our house that were grieving Ben. And so I was thankful that Paula was in there orchestrating what was going on, and she was feeding me too, and my husband and our other children. We are a blended family, so Ben had some bonus siblings that were also part of this loss. And it was beautiful to see how we were all able to grieve together.
So tell me how your organization works. If you have a sudden loss, on your website also, show me where that is on your page where it said how to connect, but help me navigate that,
Sure.
Lisa.
If you go to the contact page up in the top right, yes, that will get you to a contact us form. And we just ask a few little questions there. It's very quick, and that will come to three of us who work in the ministry. We will look at that. We will reach out to you within just a few hours, typically, unless it's after hours, and then it's definitely the next morning. And we'll find out a little bit more about the loss. We'll ask you what kind of hours you're available to meet with a grief mentor, and then we'll set you up with a grief mentor. And the first visit is free. So this invites trial. If you've never been to see a therapist, and a lot of people haven't, they're a little nervous about meeting with a complete stranger with this type of loss, any type of loss, this kind of pain, right? And so it's amazing. It's so beautiful to see. And Brittany, who is our executive assistant, she does such a fabulous job of talking with people on the phone and really listening and understanding the pain that they're in. She's their first point of contact, and sometimes the first person they've talked about, their grief to in a while, because, after a period of time, people do go back to their normal lives. And sometimes you're left isolated, feeling alone. And so it's wonderful when we can get people in to get the help they need, start giving them coping strategies. So their first meeting with a grief mentor will be about, hey, let's talk about what happened, share a little bit about that, certainly. And then we're going to talk about some possible coping strategies, because some of the early things people feel are guilt and regret, right? Maybe their last conversation with this person wasn't good. Maybe they feel regret or guilt because maybe there's something more they feel like they could have done, when the truth is they really probably did all they could with what they knew. Then it depends on the type of loss that these feelings surface. There's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, and if onlys that we do to ourselves, just replaying that over and over in our brain. Our brain is trying to make sense of what happened, right? The fact that this person is not coming back. And it is a journey, and it takes a while. It's different for everyone. In the case of child loss, it can take 2 to 3 to 5 years sometimes to really accept that this person is not coming back, and it takes a lot of work. Same with parents. People have close, loving relationships with parents, and when their parent dies, a piece of them is gone, right? They don't have this person to reach out to. In the case of sibling loss, you lose your past and your future with this person, right? This is the person that you are going to have later on in life to talk about the memories that you created together in the family. So that's a very difficult loss, and that's a very it's not a loss that's discussed very often. Siblings have this difficulty because they're watching their parents who are broken and shattered and have fallen apart, and they don't feel like they can say anything to them about how they're feeling, right? And so they feel very uncomfortable. A lot of people tell them, well, you need to be strong for your parents. You need to keep it together. And so they're like, what do I do with my grief? And so I always check on, what are the other children doing in the family? How are they being treated? Do they need help? And we certainly also mentor children, youth ages from 8 to whatever. We have workshops that we do with children monthly. So that's a beautiful thing. We use art. Yes, we use art therapy as a tool so they don't feel like they're in therapy. And we get them to talk about their grief. We provide coping strategies, even breathing exercises when they might be feeling anxious, or there's a reminder of some kind that pops up, because reminders are all around us. When we're in grief and we've just lost somebody really important, there are reminders everywhere. There's grocery store reminders. There's more reminders on television. Songs, exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from.
Yes. And so, the first visit's free. After that, we ask for a $75 fee. If you cannot afford that, and we realize that people are still choosing between electricity and food, we will find the money for you. We have a lot of great partners, foundations that like to help First Hour and the people that we serve. And so sometimes we just ask, well, what can you afford? So some people pay as little as $25 per session.
How important is the very beginning, the first hours of grief, dealing with things? Because you mentioned, Lisa, that some people don't even know like where to go, what to do, who to call, the next steps to take. You all help guide people in that.
We can, yes. We've had people call an hour after somebody passes and ask, where is my person? I don't even know where they are. Well, they're at the corners typically. And the next thing we need to think about is how you want to honor their life. Do you want to, have a life celebration? Do you want to be at a funeral home? And so we actually have a funeral home locator on our website. And certainly a lot of people have funeral homes around them, so they might geographically locate for that particular service. What kind of service do they want to have? How long do they want to have a visitation? All these questions. Now, I will say funeral homes do a very good job of walking you through this. And but if you want to do some advanced planning, we have an obituary worksheet and a funeral planning checklist actually on our website. It's one of the most downloaded PDFs on our website, and it helps you kind of think through things in advance instead of being in the funeral home, which can be uncomfortable because there's often caskets around and uncomfortable things. Yeah, and you're emotional and you don't want to be doing this. There's anger. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. But I will say funeral homes also have typically a database of information that makes putting that obituary together easy. But I would also want to advise that you only make decisions that you have to right now. Okay, don't go into deciding what the headstone is, for example. These are emotional times, and you don't want to be making emotional decisions, especially about, let's say, if your person is going to be buried and you want to get a headstone. Don't do that for a little while. I'd wait about 6 months to a year. Actually, they'll put a marker down for that person, and you can be just fine with that for a while. You want to make good decisions, other decisions like about belongings, people's belongings. These are things we talk about, right? What do you do?
What do you do with all this stuff?
That's right. And so I recommend if you don't need to change anything, don't for a while. If you do need to move the person out of their apartment, then put everything in totes until you're ready to deal with it, and maybe ask these people who so desperately want to help you, your friends and family members, to help you with that, right? There's a lady that comes to my loss of child group, and some of her friends actually got together and went to her son's apartment and loaded up the totes of his belongings because she just wasn't ready to deal with that, right? And so I highly recommend, don't get rid of anything just right away. This out of sight, out of mind idea doesn't work. Later on, you're going to want some of these things. You may want to have a quilt made out of the clothes or a teddy bear. They're making all kinds of really beautiful things out of your loved one's clothing. There's certainly lots of keepsakes that will surface. Even in my case, some of my son's artwork was so precious, and I framed that for other family members to have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you find some folks think that, okay, I'm going through this loss, I got it, I can deal with it.
Yes.
I'll be okay. Just, and they're not.
Yes. So teenagers, especially, I'm going to talk to you right now. If you have a teenager, they're going to tell you they're fine. They'll be fine. They don't need any help. They do need help. One of the things that happens with trauma is that it's stored in your body. And if it doesn't come out and is dealt with, then it will continue to fester in there. And later in life, it could come out in different ways. It could be that you start numbing out with drugs and alcohol. It could be that you're angry, that you have anger stored in your body. So it's really important that we get this out and we deal with it. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways to deal with this. We also offer some equine therapy for people. And so that's a beautiful way for you to meet with a young person, especially a teenager. Maybe they don't really want to make direct eye contact with you. So I'll take them out to a farm and we'll brush horses and we'll talk about what's going on in their world. Or art therapy, again, is just a beautiful way for them to express themselves. How are you feeling? Let's draw that out. Let's draw out how you felt before the loss and after the loss. Let's draw out some really beautiful memories that you have about your person, your sibling, maybe, if that's who died, or your parent. So we need kids to be able to talk about grief. We've had some kids in our school systems tell us that they're not allowed to cry at home.
Oh, wow.
And that just breaks our heart, right?
Yeah.
And so we tell them, look, you can cry here. So we offer a 10-week program, and a lot of the schools around Louisville just got approved, or we're about to get approved for the JCPS program. And this is a 10-week program that we do. It's 50 minutes. It's fully funded, so it's free. And the resource teachers and counselors help identify kids that maybe have lost a parent or a sibling or a grandparent that was influential in their life, and that they're struggling with grief. And I can tell you so many beautiful stories about some of the kids that we've been able to serve doing this. And it's just so helpful with them for them to be able to talk and to also be around other people and say, oh, you're doing this too. You're feeling this too. Oh, that means this is normal what I'm feeling, because grief can feel very crazy at times, you know?
Yeah. For kids, I want to talk a little bit more about that, Lisa, because I think that's so interesting. Because sometimes we think, oh, they're kids. They are resilient. They bounce back and blah, 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 and whatnot. But sometimes kids have a hard time, as you were saying, expressing things, or they don't know how to say it.
They don't.
And,
Yes.
and I'm not in their shoes, right? I don't really understand what they're going through, because I'm maybe not have lost somebody, a parent, when I was young. How is getting them that help just so important?
I think, first of all, we have to let them know that mommy and daddy are sad, right?
Mhm.
We have to model grief for them and say it's okay to be sad, right? You don't have to pretend you're not sad or act like. I think it's very isolating for children. They feel like they're different. They don't know who they can talk to. So parents need to say, Mom, I'm sad too. And so we're going to walk through this together.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of really good books for children too about loss. I would find books for children, and we actually, I believe, list some of those on our website.
Mhm.
Then I think, again, a sketch pad, letting them draw out their grief, encouraging that kind of behavior where they can, illustrate how they're feeling. For teenagers, I love journaling. It's a great tool for them to be able to write down their feelings. If they'd rather type it out on their computer, they can encrypt the messages to, for journaling. But I think journaling is great. I know of one young lady who that was a big tool in her life when her parent died, to be able to write letters to her mother, to be able to just talk about how she was feeling. And it doesn't have to be pretty, right? Nobody's probably going to read this except you.
Yeah.
And you may not even go back to it, right?
Sure.
You're getting this out.
Mhm.
Children are resilient. I will say that a lot of times the younger ones, they'll ask questions, and the goal is to answer the question in the simplest form, not to give them any more information than you need to.
Mhm.
And then they'll move on. They'll process that. They'll probably go back to playing or doing whatever and sort of acting normal. And then they might come around again and say, okay, tell me about this part, how did this happen, or what happened? Again, you want to answer that, and very succinctly, not giving them any more information than they need.
Mhm.
Age appropriate answers.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to tell them certain things. I had a situation recently where someone had a loss by suicide, and she didn't want to share the gory details with her granddaughter. And so, I thought that was a good idea. Maybe we save that for later on in life when the child is a little bit
More mature.
older. But you do run a risk with social media and people able to find out information, especially when they're around 12 or 13 years old, depending upon how much access they have to that type of thing, them finding out. And
Yeah.
so then there's going to be a trust issue,
Sure.
right? You didn't tell me all of that,
Yeah.
So you really have to gauge the maturity of the child, what you think they can handle. But generally for young children, I really recommend just a little bit of information at a time. They will come back and ask more questions.
Sure. So you all have an upcoming event, and I want to talk about that, Lisa. And while you're talking about that, I'm going to navigate your website so I can show people where to go.
Yeah, so on next Wednesday, March 19th, we have Sandy Gross. She is a Louisvillian. She's a local author. She wrote a Bible study called You Are Potential. And it's a great Bible study. It's about achieving your God-given potential. We're actually doing that in our weekly Bible study at First Hour Grief Response. And she's also a podcaster. She's a faith coach. She's just an all-around great gal. And she does have a lot of stories. She lost her brother, Steve, when she was 27 years old in a car crash with a drunk driver.
Mm.
And so she will likely talk a little bit about that relationship and how that felt for her and her parents. But she's also filled with hope. And I think she'll definitely integrate some Bible stories into how, suffering can turn into something really good. I remember when Bed died, I was just praying for God to use it for good. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I had worked in marketing for almost 30 years. And then I found myself leading a grief support group.
Wow.
About 3 years after he died. And that was the thing that finally gave me passion in life again. And then I knew that this was going to be something that I was going to do with my life. I didn't know how big that was going to get.
Yeah.
And So when Karen invited me to her house along with these other two ladies, it was just remarkable to see how we worked together to actually create First Hour. And we've served over 1,200 people now from 64 zip codes.
Wow.
Yes, and we have different types of loss groups. So we have infant loss and miscarriage loss, which again is one of those losses that aren't talked about.
Sure.
You know, people say things like, "Oh, you're young, you'll have another baby," or you know, they treat it like it wasn't even a thing. You know,
Yeah.
and so this group is a really important group. We even do an angel walk every year in October to honor the families that have lost babies. We also have a loss of child, loss of spouse, loss of parent. We do a general grief support group. These are all free, by the way. And I think being in a group helps validate your feelings, because you can be talking about something and other heads will be shaking and you'll be saying, "Oh my goodness, this person had the same experience that I did. You know, can you tell me about how to navigate this?"
Yeah.
You know,
Or I wasn't crazy for feeling that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good that happens in a group. I don't always recommend groups right off the bat, because if you're in a lot of pain, you can't absorb the pain. You might try to absorb the pain in the group if you're high empathy. And so groups can be difficult. Sometimes I can't be in a group because I'm in so much pain myself. So we have to just be careful about that and really assess where you are.
So there's still tickets available for the event that's coming up on Wednesday, March 19th. Here we go. It's happening at the Waterfront Botanical Gardens, 11:30 to 1 p.m. And that includes a lunch as well. So I've got all this information right here. And also, if you're joining us on this stream, if you click at the bottom, I've got First Hour of Grief Response's website where you can find all of that information too. This is really what I think, you know, we're all going to experience loss at some point in our life.
100%.
So it's one of those things that there are people out there who want to hold your hand and help you get through it. You don't have to do it alone.
That's right. You don't have to do it alone. And I really hope that if you're suffering and you see this, that you will reach out for help. We would be so honored to help you. Like I said, the first visit is free. Give it a try. You won't believe how helpful it is. I see people walk out and they're a lot lighter even after the first visit.
It doesn't matter how, maybe saying this incorrect, how old your grief is.
That's
if I
right.
lost somebody 10 years ago, or I lost somebody, you know, this year, does it matter how long they've been grieving?
It does not. I have adults, parents come in who maybe put their grief on hold because they had other children they were raising. And it's 6 years later and they say, "I haven't dealt with this. I need help. It's starting to bubble up. It's starting to surface." And so, no, it doesn't matter. And I'll have people come back to my loss of child group and they'll just need a tune-up. Like a significant date is coming up, right? And sometimes those days before and the day of is so difficult. So I just need to come in here and talk about it right now. You know, and we love to see them, of course, come in and get that help. Everyone should reach out for help. If you're grieving any type of loss, we deal with any type of loss, predominantly some sudden loss, of course, but we have helped people who also had long-term illness type losses.
All right. This has been insightful. And I think what's a relief is to know, like, there are other people out there. Like, you don't have to, I think in our society, we think, you know, as you mentioned, just, you'll be fine, you know, stay strong. You'll get over it or whatever. And you may not feel strong. You may not get over it. And you, as you mentioned, you learn how to live with it.
Yeah, I don't think you ever get over it. A lot of people say that to us, and that's really not the goal. The goal is to learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
I say surrender to it, because I'm not even sure you ever really accept it.
Yeah.
But you know, you learn how to live with it. It's a lot of sorrow at first, and then joy creeps in, and then you feel maybe a little guilt about joy. And then after a while, it kind of balances out. And then you learn that you can have joy, but you can still honor your loved one, you know, years later. Like, we still find ways to honor Ben years later. And it's so beautiful to be able to do that. And, you know, of course, it's part of my mission to keep his memory alive. But my kids, my other bonus kids, help me do that too. And I really appreciate that. So, yes, it is a lifelong journey, I think.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want folks to know?
I think we covered a lot of great information.
Yeah.
I would love to come back and talk about the holidays, if that's an opportunity, because that is a very difficult time of year for people. And certainly navigating certain dates is difficult. Just always be kind to yourself. Take the day off if you've got a death date coming up, or, you know, if you have a birth date, and realize that even if you skip the death date or the birth date, you decide you don't want to do anything to honor them, it won't always be like that. You can do something next year if you don't feel like it this year. Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Give yourself grace.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. I'm Myra Ansari with Lisa Chardine from First Hour of Grief Response. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was so good.
That
Thank
was
you.
so great. Hello. It's very cold in here. Really? I would rather be warm than cold. All right. My first thing is going to be on cam because it just came in and I don't have video. Hi. Look nice. What's that front bear? New shoes? Dos minutos. Dos minutos. Uh-oh, breaking news, everyone. I can now finally pull it up on our website. Where is it? Where is it? What? I hate that breaking news doesn't show up right away.
Yeah, that push alert system's fast.
Yeah,
that push alert system's fast, but ARC is slow.
Yeah. Well, nothing.
This is a local news update from Wave Now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Myra Ansari here for Wave Now. Middletown Police and LMPD are investigating a shooting that happened this morning on Winter Springs Drive. It happened around 7:30 this morning. Police found a man with a gunshot wound, and he was found on the ground. He was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. During the investigation, police also found a suspicious package. The bomb squad was called, but police say there is no threat to the public right now. They're looking for a suspect. If you have any information, you should contact police. Another story that we're following today, the trial is underway right now for a former U.S. Army soldier accused of killing his wife in Hardin County. Police say Jordan Henning shot his wife Ashley in June of 2023 at her birthday party. He was arrested days later and charged with murder. In the opening statements today, the Commonwealth Attorney emphasized the graphic details of the shooting, which was captured on camera. Meanwhile, Henning's defense talked about his career in the military and the relationship between the couple, painting the picture as a soldier who, quote, snapped. If convicted, he could face 20 to 50 years or life in prison. I'm Myra Ansari. I will see you on Wave News at 3 o'clock today. It is beautiful outside. Hopefully you are enjoying this weather. Don't go anywhere. Meteorologist Brian Good is going to be in next with your forecast.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't hit you there. Sorry. Whew, let me get plugged in. All right, I'm here. No. Get that mic out of the way. Why is this? I feel like this is set on like a 2-shot or something. It's weird. How much extra did you say? I'm sorry. 30, okay. Alrighty. And hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. Wave meteorologist Brian Good, as we're getting closer to the 2 o'clock hour and another day of a warm spell in the area that we're loving. Temperatures have been rising quickly despite some high clouds we've got in the area. In fact, let me show you the look. This is going to be from the top of the waterfront plaza, downtown Louisville, looking off to the west. Hey, we still got some blue sky mixed in. That's helping to allow for a steady warming period. Even had one person complain already that it's, quote, hot outside. I don't know if I go that far, but it is warm and it is pleasant. We'll take it for sure. The numbers coming in. Now, this was as of the top of the hour at 74 degrees. I did check briefly over the airport, at least 75 now. And the record today is certainly reachable. In fact, the numbers for the record coming in at about 78 for this date back in 1990. And again, we've already hit 75, so just a few more to go. We're thinking about 79 right now. Could we hit 80? Yeah, it's certainly possible. Tomorrow, a little tougher to get to 80 because we'll have more clouds around and perhaps even a couple of downpours or thunderstorms in the area. Nothing on the strong side. Friday, we bounce back in a big way, though, into the 80s, but with a lot of wind, getting ready for the active weekend that we've been talking about for a while now. All right, so for the next 12 hours, we're going to stay very pleasant. As we into this evening, even the drops, if you may have noticed, the past few nights have been less and less on the dramatic side. Tonight will be no different. It'll be a much easier glide down through the 60s. So very, very pleasant, even after the sun goes down. So if you have evening plans to walk around the neighborhood, you don't have to rush to get back home with the sun setting, thinking it's going to get chilly. It'll stay mild even beyond that point. All right, there are the high clouds that are passing across Kentucky and Indiana. These are not rain-producing clouds. They're too high up. As we widen out the view, well, we do have our next weather system, again, separate from the weekend. This is rolling now across areas of Texas, about to produce what looks to be a big hail day for Texas and into Arkansas and Louisiana. Large hailstones possible there. For us tomorrow, that system will arrive. We do have a chance to get at least a couple of showers early in the day, and then in the afternoon, there is actually an opportunity to get a couple of thunderstorms, maybe some pea-sized hail. We'll be watching that. Again, they'll be smaller than the severe limits, but in and out of those clouds, any scattered downpours, the thermometer will have a chance to get into the mid to upper 70s. Thank you.